Hi, I'm Shelley Way and welcome back to Shelley's Way. This is the wellbeing channel for professionals. We are all in industry and our jobs tend to take over our lives. Well, we'll change all that here. I know that has been me. I'm a high school principal. Your job might be vastly different, but it's irrelevant, isn't it? Because we're all working busy hours, we're all tired, we're all exhausted, and somehow the job can easily take us over. And we're trying to figure out how to survive and how to thrive in our personal lives instead of that happening. Now, today we're going to be talking about speaking up. Now, my first question for you is, are there situations in your life, whether it be at work or at home or with your friendships or somewhere else in your life, where something doesn't feel right? Something just is off, something is wrong, and it's got that weird unsettled feeling to you that just, it's always that that you just never get around to saying anything. You never speak up about it. It's something that's been on your mind for some time. You can kind of see solutions to it in your head, and you know that you kind of have a plan, if only you could get yourself to do it, to actually fix it. But you don't. Why don't we? Why don't we fix it? Why don't we speak up about these things? Even if you're a professional, you might be in charge of 200 people. But somehow when it comes to a particular matter, whether it's work or at home or in your personal life, that you're just not speaking up about, despite the fact that you might be very successful in other areas of your life. Well, that's because of Kevin. And you're thinking, what? Kevin. Kevin is that voice in your head that says, don't have that conversation. Kevin wants to keep you comfortable. Kevin wants to make sure that you don't face the difficult thing, that you don't go into uncharted territory. That is the voice that kind of keeps you still and stuck. But unfortunately, because of that voice, you don't get around to saying things. You don't get around to speaking up. You don't get to set your parameters. You don't end up sort of broaching those subjects. Now, think of the times in your life when you have actually spoken up about things that weren't right. And it didn't go badly, did it? It went okay in the end. It might not have gone well initially, but in the end, it actually worked out okay. So I want you to think about that particular thing in your life and just think of one at the moment. You probably have 5, like the rest of us. Think of one particular thing and you're thinking, what have I been putting up with that I really don't have to put up with? What do I really need to speak up about? Recently in my life, I have recently spoken up about some things. Even though I'm a principal and even though I'm a manager, it's still, Kevin comes in and Kevin sits on your shoulder and Kevin doesn't want you to have those difficult conversations. But I have recently in my personal life and in my professional life, and things so far have gone quite well, which is really interesting because if you have a limiting belief and you do try to raise things, then sometimes that's not going to go well. And we'll get into how you change a limiting belief later on in this video if you need it. So don't watch it if you don't need it, but that's coming up a little bit later. But because I had started to change my belief patterns and I started to raise some things, things have gone relatively well. Shock horror. And I'm wondering if that can happen for you too. Now, you're thinking, okay, well, I've got this one thing, but it's a big deal. I've got to sack someone, or I really have to end a friendship that I'm not enjoying, or it's like something disastrous in your head is going to happen because if you raise that, maybe that person will go off on workers' compensation. Maybe there'll be a tsunami of emotion come out. Who knows? There might be something like that. However, just bear in mind that you are not responsible for their reaction. Let me say that again. You are not responsible for their reaction. You are a player in their story. And your part of the play is to bring these things up, which is why you feel the way you do. So your job is actually to bring things up. You can do it in a nice way. You can do it in a way that actually, is more successful. There's ways you can bring things up that aren't successful, like yelling and screaming and swearing. Don't do that. But you might actually trigger them to move on to the next thing. That might allow them to step up, have a higher success rate at work, or a better way of interacting with people, or a better way to do their job, or they might choose to exit your life. Is it that bad long term? Maybe that they've got a knitting career that they need to follow and that there's actually something else waiting for them. And maybe they just need a little trigger for you to raise these things. That might not be your goal, of course. However, you have no control over someone else's story. You are just a player in their story. And maybe you feel these things at the moment because you have to play your part in their story. I know that I have left things unsaid for years. For years, even as a manager, I have left things unsaid for years. And I remember going to some professional learning where there was a leader who had been a leader for many, many years. And she said, whatever you do, don't leave things for years like I did. That's what she said, because she ended up with a relationship breakdown with a very good friend of hers because she didn't raise things that really needed to be said. And I've done exactly the same thing. And I now know that I have to speak to a person about whatever it is that they're doing that is not going well within 24 to 48 hours, even though Kevin's on my shoulder and doesn't want me to say anything. Sound familiar? I thought it might. So you might be thinking, okay, well, how can I raise these things? I don't know how to bring it up. 2 words, noticed and wondering. All you have to remember is noticed and wondering. I noticed that you seem a bit down today and I'm wondering if I've contributed to it. I noticed that things aren't going well in the sequence of tasks that you have to achieve and I'm wondering where the blockage is. Then you're opening up the conversation. Noticed and wondering. You can apply it to anything. You can apply it to your kids. Like, I've noticed that you haven't been getting around to your homework and I'm wondering what's going on for you. So it doesn't really matter the conversation that you have. You can always use noticed and wondering. So those are 2 words. Now, another thing you can always do is tell me about. I've used it so many times. Tell me about what happened. Because you're asking from their perspective, how do you feel about this? What's happened here? And you're asking from their perspective, like, can you tell me why the bills aren't being paid? You can ask them a question. You can tell me, walk me through what happened here for this result. So asking their opinion invites them into the conversation, and that is where you must pursue the thing that you need to talk about. You can't just leave it. Kevin wants you to leave it. Kevin goes, oh, it's really uncomfortable. Yeah, but if you push forward and pursue and set your clear boundaries and not sugarcoat things heaps, be polite, be kind, but you don't have to sugarcoat things, because sugarcoating things makes them feel like, oh, this is okay and I can continue to do it, because they don't know any different until you speak up and say something. So be straightforward, to the point, no matter which way you choose, whether it's noticed and wondering or whether you're using the method when you tell me about method. And the other method, particularly if it's something that has taken years and you haven't actually raised, but you really need to, and you're thinking, well, how the hell am I going to raise this? It's been 4 years and I haven't raised this. You can actually apologize and you can say to them, look, I'm so sorry. I should have raised this 4 years ago. It's completely my fault. I wish I had and I hadn't. So I'd really like to talk about it now. Is that okay? And it disarms them. So they don't feel like they've done necessarily anything wrong because you haven't raised it and you've apologized for it. So apologizing is definitely something that can work to disarm a situation, and then you can have that conversation about whatever the issue is. Make sure you're very clear about what you're needing going forward, whatever that is. So you might be setting rules and boundaries about what you expect by when. Now, if you're a manager and your issue is at work and it's with a colleague that's not doing their job properly, yes, and you're the manager, you can send an email which outlines exactly what you expect, what, by when, to what standard. But I must warn you, and you can do that, it's no problem, and that will probably hit the mark. However, I must warn you that only 7% of what a person means to say comes across in the written form. 7%. So 93% of you might be thinking, you're doing a great job, I'm really impressed with how you're doing. A, B, C, D, E, F. However, X and Y need to change, and these are the parameters by which they need to change. You might be doing it from that point of view, but in an email, you're missing pitch, you're missing tone, you're missing volume, you're missing facial expression, you're missing body language, you're missing all of those things is just the words. And so they might take real offense to what you have written and how you've written it, even though you didn't mean offense at all. So just be warned, if you're going to do it in an email form, be conscious that only 7% of your intention is coming across in that written form. Sometimes it's just way easier, pick up the phone and talk to them, or go and see them, because that conversation and all of the body language will come across with what you're meaning to say. So that brings me to, what do you need to speak up about? You wouldn't be watching this unless there was something in your either professional life or personal life that you have been putting up with. What have you been putting up with is my question. You've been putting up with more than one thing, haven't you? You've been putting up with at least 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 things, right? Well, don't bail on it. Write them below right now, so at least you've got them out of your head about what your things are. Now, I'm not going to overwhelm you this week. Your challenge is to speak up about one thing, but before you do, you have to imagine it going well in your head first. Imagining you raising the topic, imagine it going really well, close your eyes, imagine it happening and it went really successfully. If you can't imagine it going well in your head, there is a good chance you have a limiting belief. And of course you can't imagine it going well, because if you believe no one's going to listen to you, and that's your core underlying belief, well, it's not probably going to go well. You can challenge it and you can see how it goes. And if you're brave enough, you can do that. But I find personally, I like to change my limiting belief before I go and screw something up. If I realize I've got a limiting belief, then I like to uncover and dig out what it is. And this is how you do it. It's very simple. So if you don't have a limiting belief, off you go and you have that conversation this week. And you can use your noticed and wondering or tell me about, and then you can invite in the conversation. So if you do have a limiting belief, like I have many times, and you think, oh, well, there's no way I'm going to change that belief. I've had that belief for 50 years. It's actually easier than you think. I had a really, really deep embedded belief that if everything went really well, my life would implode, because when I was 16, that's actually what happened. Things were going really well in my life. I was exercising. I had great friends. I was doing really well at school. My life was on fire. My family was great. I had lost weight. I was looking great. And then my family moved, and I moved in with family friends and spiraled into depression. So my brain thought, well, if everything's going really well, your entire life will implode. Make sure things don't go really well, because you've always got to have something uncomfortable and not right and just not sitting well, because otherwise your life will implode. And that's because I thought I'd make that real, right? The amount of times that I had to, my whole life, I've made sure that things are a little bit off, a little bit uncomfortable. I've got too much tension. I've got too much to do, because I thought if everything was right, then my whole world would implode. And I tried to change that belief so many times. And this is in the end what actually worked. It's very, very simple. I couldn't believe it. I had to do it about 3 times before I got my words right. This is what you do. You uncover the limiting belief. Number 1, you start with anything that you're having trouble with. And it might be that, oh my God, that person keeps turning up late to work and I haven't raised it with them. Might be that. Then you say, well, why is that a problem? So your 3 questions are why is that, or why is that a problem? So your first question is, well, why is that a problem? Well, it's a problem because it's been going on for ages and I haven't said anything about it, and now I feel like it's too late. Well, why is that? Why is that a problem for you? Or because if I raise it, I'm going to hurt their feelings. Or why is that a problem? Well, then I'm going to ruin the friendship. And why is that a problem? Well, the friendship that I have is really, really valuable, and it's just easier to let them get away with it. Well, why is that a problem? Because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And, well, why? Why haven't you raised it? I just don't feel like I'm going to be heard. And there it is. There's the limiting belief. So you uncover the limiting belief by asking why Why is that? Or why is that a problem to whatever your answer is? And then the one that feels more like the limiting belief is the one that's the limiting belief. And then you just come up with the opposite belief and you think, oh yeah, Shelley, as if this is going to work, but it actually does. So you then come up with the opposite belief. And for me, the opposite belief was everything in my life is allowed to be going really well, and I'd specify all the things that could go really well, and my life just keeps getting better and better and is happier and happier and more successful. But then I would have to come up with a gluing statement, something that would be somewhere between what I currently believe and what I want to believe. And the gluing statements are more and more each day things are going well for me and I'm comfortable with it. So it might be a gluing statement for you if yours is no one's going to listen to me and you want your final belief to say, I'm always heard by people. That's your final belief. So the gluing statement by more people are listening to me each day. That's your gluing statement. And then it's so simple. You just get a speaker or an iPad and open a recording app on your phone. So your speaker, your iPad's playing relaxation music. You open a recording app on your phone, you press record, it's listening to all of the beautiful music, the relaxation music. I'll let that go for 2 minutes because I'm going to be listening to this when I go to bed. So I need 2 minutes of settling in time, and then I hear my own voice saying my gluing statement and my opposite belief. My gluing statement and my opposite belief. And I just listen to that as I go to bed. That's it. After 5 nights of listening to that, I had fixed a limiting belief that had me stuck for too many years. So that's it. So if you feel that you have a limiting belief that is actually the thing that prevents you from speaking up, whether it be at work or in your personal life, do that. You uncover what your belief actually is. You figure out what you want your new belief to be. You come up with some gluing statement beliefs, record it, listen to it at night. It's that simple, dead set. And you're thinking, oh no, there's just no way that I can ruin the belief. I challenge you. I challenge you. You can do it. You can change your belief like that. I never thought I could, and I bloody well did. So I want to hear about it. If you don't think you can change your belief and you think this isn't going to work, try it. Try it. And then write in the comments down below that it didn't work, because I bet you there won't be any comments because it does work. And a couple of times I went, my words aren't quite right. I had to change them and I re-recorded and it worked. So, and I actually had to do that 3 times for a really strong belief, but it worked. Okay. So now my question to you is, what are you putting up with that you don't want to put up with anymore, which has led you to this video? And who do you need to talk to? About what? And when are you going to do it? These are the things you need to think about. Jot them down below, but I want to hear how you go as well. I want to hear, did it work out okay? Because most of the time it will actually work out okay. If nothing else, you got heard. If nothing else. And you've spoken up and you've stood your ground when maybe you didn't do before, and you have grown. That's it. That's what we're here for. And then the whole point with this well-being whole channel and everything is to improve your emotional well-being if you are a professional. And let me tell you, if you're not actually speaking up about things that aren't working, your emotional well-being is always a bit low, and I like to score it out of 10. So 10 out of 10's up here. It's going so well it can't get any better. 0 is so bad it can't get any worse. And most days I would finish work and I'd be a 2 or 3 out of 10. I was just a puddle and I couldn't actually function in my life. But my question to you is, once you have these conversations and you visualized it and imagine it has gone really well, what is your emotional well-being score going to be once you've finished and you've actually had your conversation? Your expectations are now clear, and the things that your boundaries are clear about what you will and won't put up with. Once you're there, how's your emotional well-being going to be? I'll bet it's going to be a lot better, which is the whole point of why you're seeking content like this, right? So that's the challenge this week. We're speaking up, all of us. Let's go.